Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new and exclusive interview right here on Twitter Spaces. If you haven't been following myself or my guest, Amanda, please make sure that you do that in this space or even after this space. I don't really know how that's going to go, but usually I would do this on Twitch. However, I really want to make sure that my guest gets the most eyes on her. The spotlight is definitely on her. It's all about her. So, if you are a wrestling promoter out there, I'm just going to put it out there. If you're a wrestling promoter out there and you want more referees to your promotion, Amanda is your girl to hit up. And this is what we're here for. We're here to learn about Amanda. She is a referee, she is a manager, and she is a damn badass manager from what I see. So, without further ado, welcome, Amanda Monroe.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on Spaces. This is amazing. I've been excited for this for quite a few days now, so I'm just happy it's finally here.
Of course. Yeah, I wanted to start doing this to give other wrestlers and referees like some type of spotlight because it's hard to get your name out there. It's hard to like do all the marketing. So I'm here to help with that. So let's just jump right in it. Where did your love of wrestling come from?
So my love of wrestling started in about 2000. 2000 is when I had seen my cousins used to watch wrestling, so I knew of it, but I didn't really watch it. So after I graduated high school, I know I'm dating myself a little bit there. I started watching a little bit of wrestling. I kind of got into it really slowly, and I was watching WrestleMania 17, and I believe it was 17, where Edge speared Jeff Hardy. Uh, Edge speared Jeff from the ladder,
Yeah.
and it was that second. I'm like, this is it. Like, that was my exact moment that I knew I was going to be a fan. Like, I was going to be a fan long term.
Uh, oh, go ahead if you weren't finished.
No, that was really where the love of everything started.
Okay, and then did you want to become a wrestler, or were you like, I want to be a referee?
So the thought of being a wrestler was dancing in my head a little bit, and I thought I could do this. Problem was, I am born and raised in Southwest Minnesota.
Uh-huh.
There, at the time, there was absolutely nothing in the area. My closest drive to even train was about 3.5 hours away.
Damn.
So it was in my brain, but it was one of those, I don't have any place to do it.
I see.
So
Yeah.
it just sat there as an idea for years and years before I actually ended up being able to have the resources to do anything about it.
And was that because like you moved closer to the place, or you went to a different state to get the training?
So what happened was I had moved to South Dakota in 2001. Many, many years later, 2017, actually 5 years ago today, I met Nick Dinsmore for the first time. For those of you who do not know Nick Dinsmore, he was Eugene in WWE back in the early 2000s. So I met him for the first time. And him and I were having a conversation, and he said, I'm moving up here. I have he's like, I'm going to open a wrestling school up here. I'm thinking about running shows. First thing I told him was, you open up a wrestling school, you start doing shows, I will be there. I will be at every single show. And he started up his wrestling company here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. It was called Midwest All Pro. And I was at the second show. Didn't make it to the first show, got to the second show.
Uh-huh.
I ended up going to every single show after that because I was just hooked. I started learning that there's a big difference between the professional wrestling world and the indie wrestling world.
Okay.
There's something about the indie wrestling world that is just more personal. And
Yeah.
I loved that. So again, I really didn't have it in my mind that I was going to do anything, but I was like, I'm going to go to shows because I definitely want to support this. So about 2-3 years later, one of the wrestlers had a serious injury, and the month after that, there was a big fundraiser, and there was a silent auction that went on. And one of the things that was being given away at that auction was a free semester of training.
Oh.
And I'm like, I'm going to throw my money in for this. We're just going to see what happens and see if I win it. So long story short, I won it. So I won the free semester. And I said, I'm in my 30s. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, but let's give it a shot. So I did. And I found out, it's very intensive. It's very hard work. Anybody who says it's fake, I think a lot of people still get slightly offended by that, because that stuff hurts. It just does.
Yep.
So I started doing the referee thing. I just naturally kind of slid into that role. And I started realizing how much I liked it, because it was physical, but it wasn't as physical. And it didn't beat up my body as much.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
Yeah. So I started doing the referee stuff. Did that for about 6 months. Kind of got to the point where I didn't have the funding to keep doing training anymore. So I decided to take a break. I'm still going to all of the shows. A couple of years later, I was going through a divorce, and I needed something. It's definitely true that once that wrestling gets into your blood, it's really hard to get out.
Oh, yeah.
And I needed that one thing that was going to be my escape. I needed that one thing that was going to get me out of my own head and get me into a space that I knew I belonged. So I went back and I started refereeing again. Did that for a while. Actually started dating one of the wrestlers, and things just naturally kind of progressed to me being his manager. But I still didn't want to lose the referee aspect. So I started branching out a little bit with the refereeing. So I referee in North Dakota, and I do some refereeing in Nebraska. And then I also I'm going to be making my Minnesota debut in November.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So when I'm in Sioux Falls, our company now is called Flagship Pro Wrestling. When I'm in Sioux Falls, that is my manager spot.
Okay.
My then boyfriend, who is now my fiance, I still manage him, and I really.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
sorry.
No, go ahead.
You sort of broke up. I was like, oh man, I thought we lost you. Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm still here. So my boyfriend, which my boyfriend, my fiance, so I still decided that I was going to keep the manager role here while I'm in Sioux Falls. And honestly, if it came down to which one do you love more, I don't think I could pick, because there's managers, I think, are a very niche market. You don't see them around very much. And you see babyface managers even less.
Yeah.
So Silas Young, who's actually was on AEW.
Yeah.
He had a show with Flagship a few months back, and he saw the match that my fiance and I did with Alvin Falcone, who he's has a rivalry with right now. And he told me, we went out after the show, and he looked at me and he said, I hate babyface managers. He said, there's generally never been any point to have them, because it doesn't make sense. He said, what you did tonight made sense. And that, to me, I was like, I am doing this right. I was like, I could die now, because Silas Young just told me that I did an awesome job. So
yeah.
I think I've been able to find just that area that I fit into, where I love being a manager, and I'd love to see more babyface in other places. it can work.
Yeah, definitely. So we're gonna pause right there because there's a lot to unpack, and I thank you
Yeah.
for getting to like all of my points because eventually they would have been questions,
Oh,
but it's all good. It's all good. I do like the fact that you did mention that there's a difference between pro wrestling and like indie wrestling. Like there is a significant difference. To you, what are the most important aspects between the two?
so I feel like with you're talking about going into the professional wrestling companies, you obviously you're the athletics are still there. The athletics are pretty much the same in indie wrestling. Um, you get that bigger scope, you get that bigger stage, which is great. But what I love about the indies versus professional, going out and being the bigger professional wrestling companies, is in the indies, I feel like you can get more invested because you have that you can have that personal one-on-one with those wrestlers. You don't get that with these bigger companies. Um, you can go out, you can say hi, you can wait by buses, you can do whatever, but you just don't get that one-on-one personal experience. So you're really invested in that wrestler because you know them, you see them. I like the individuality aspect of wrestling
Yeah.
in indies.
Yeah, I totally get that. I definitely feel more connected to indie wrestlers on the indies. Just because I know people and I'm able to be like, hey, what's up? Let's take a picture for like memory's sake, and then versus like professional wrestling where everyone is like literally running around and you're like, hey, I haven't talked to you in 6 months. How you doing? So
Yes.
yeah, the whole difference in that. Um, you also mentioned too that you got that free month training with Eugene, which is very awesome because not everyone can get that. So in your first month, on a scale of 1 to 10, how difficult was it, if it was?
Whew. I would put it at about an 8
Okay.
because there's a lot of hesitation in your body because the first time you take a bump, your body doesn't want to do that. And then you take the bump, your body doesn't want to do that again. And it's a lot of conditioning to get your body to say, we can do this, but we have to do this the right way. I ended up getting so many bruises. I know I took a clothesline from Nick, and one of the first things I told Nick, because I wasn't the first, but I was the only female in the class.
Okay.
And I told him, I said, I do not want you to take it easy on me.
Mm-hmm.
Like just because I'm a female. He clotheslined me once and I was not expecting him to clothesline me as hard as he did. And I took the entire bump on my elbow.
Oh.
And I had a nice bump on that thing for probably a good 3 or 4 weeks.
Oh,
Um,
dang.
but just his knowledge of the business is top tier. I mean, there are very few guys that you can learn from that are better than Nick.
Yeah. So, while you're training with Nick, what are 3 lessons that you still take with you today in your career?
The first one is definitely to sell.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the second one is to feed off of the crowd. It's always a matter of you have to be able to have that awareness of the crowd and how they're reacting, because sometimes you can't. I've seen my wrestling friends go into a match and they want to do it one way but the crowd's not into it,
Yeah.
so they completely flip it in the middle. And I even take that into consideration as a referee, because if, for example, if as a referee I'm not reacting to some of these moves, the fans aren't going to care.
Yeah.
So and he also taught me how important a referee is in a match. I think that's my third lesson. And it doesn't matter if I have been the actual referee in the ring or if I have been a manager and just known the referees inside the ring. You always have to have that, awareness of what you're doing as a ref, or if I'm a manager, I have to have an awareness of what the referees are doing because their job obviously is extremely important. They seem like the background player when the match is going on, but they really have like one of the most important jobs in that ring.
Yeah, they really do. It's also to enhance certain stories, and then also if they're involved in like spots, it kind of makes the story go a little bit further.
Yeah.
Referees are sort of like taken for granted, but that's all fantastic that like you keep Nick's like teachings with you and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And has anyone ever asked you for advice to be a ref?
A little bit. When we have some of our newer trainees coming in, it used to be where all the trainees would have to be a referee first. That doesn't necessarily happen anymore. But when those trainees would start to be a ref, they would come up to me and say, "What do I do? Like, how do I do this? What do I need to know?" So I love being able to give at least a little bit of guidance and say, okay, the first thing you want to know is where is the hard cam? Because you do not want people looking at your butt. Because you want to make sure they're looking at the wrestlers and not you. So you want to know where your hard cam is at. When I go into a match, I mainly want to know two things. Do I have any spots I need to look out for? And what's the finisher? That's
Okay.
it. I tell referees a lot that you can get focused on the little details. And if you get focused on the little details, you could get lost.
True.
So I have one of my wrestling friends who his advice to me is generally stay the fuck out of the way. Hopefully I can swear on Spaces because that is his advice. So I just refereed a match for him last weekend and I go up to him and I'm like, so basically stay the fuck out of the way. He's like, yep. I'm like, all right, cool.
All right.
So
yeah, that's totally an understandable thing.
yeah, it's like if I need to do something or I need to be in a certain spot, let me know. Otherwise, I just need to know what the finish is. Because yeah, it's too easy to get into your own head that way.
Yeah, I can see that. But yeah, you're allowed to curse in spaces. My personal thing is that I just don't like the N word at all in any form or anything like that.
Oh,
Like
absolutely not. Yep.
yeah, I grew up that way. I just don't like how it sounds. So that's the only thing that I ask my guests and like other people that I hang out with. Like, just don't use the word around me. But any other curse is fine. It's okay. It's fine with me.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, this is amazing. For people that do not know, like South Dakota, because I bet you a lot of people are like, oh, is that a state or something? Like, if you can, please, just tell us a little bit about South Dakota.
So every time I say I'm from South Dakota, you get that person that's like, oh, you must go to Mount Rushmore a lot. No, Mount Rushmore is 8 hours from me.
Damn.
Like, we are on the complete opposite end of the state. I mean, I could almost walk to Minnesota. That's how close we are. And you get a lot of like, wow, do you have indoor plumbing? Do you guys have internet? It's like, yes, we have all of that. It's not it's not as small and out of the outside world as people think it is. It's really not. I think wrestling in this area has started to pick up a little bit more, I would say, over the past 5 years. Honestly, ever since Nick Dinsmore has moved wrestling here, I feel like I'm hearing more about companies in North Dakota or companies in Nebraska. These smaller cities that have this that might not have as much exposure, and that is the downside to being in a state like this, is that you don't have as much exposure. So it's really hard to get out to these bigger cities and bigger places because people might not necessarily think of you.
Yeah, that's totally true. Even me being from New York, people still ask us like the weird questions about like the big city and stuff like that. Um, South Dakota really doesn't get mentioned in like the wrestling like debates or anything like that, but I think now it will.
Yes.
It's definitely picking up steam. I don't know why my brain wanted to say speed, but one day it's gonna pick up speed and all that. I was looking at your little mini videos over on your fan page on Facebook, and I wanted to get into this little rivalry that you and DeLorean, who's also here with us, with your feud with Alvin Falcone. Do you mind speaking on that for a little bit, letting the fans know what exactly is going on?
Well, a few months ago, DeLorean was fighting for the Empire Auto Sales Championship at Flagship Pro, and Alvin Falcone decided that he was going to stick his nose into business where it did not belong. He decided to put his hands, actually, or his feet, on DeLorean and kick him, basically costing him the entire match and the championship. And then he decided to put his hand in my face. So, had a match the next month. Things got a little bit heated from there. And last month, a lot of people say that I went where I didn't belong. But if you know anything about me, I really don't like people deciding to put their hands on my man.
Mm-hmm.
So Alvin Falcone decided to attack DeLorean after the match, which he won. And instead of being a man and leaving the ring, he decided to get in my face. Getting in my face led him to push DeLorean, who was trying to give a spear to Falcone, into me. So I ended up taking the spear. So Falcone just likes to stick his nose where it doesn't belong, and in business where it doesn't belong. So this month, I have to remember it's September 30th, we have a very big show coming up at SuperCon called Supermania in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And there is going to be, from what I hear, a promo that Alvin Falcone has decided to put out that says that DeLorean gets to pick the stipulation for this match. Now, I don't know what that stipulation is going to be, but I have a very good idea of what direction that DeLorean might be going into. So, as far as what match that's going to be, that's still to come, but I have a feeling that is one that no one is going to want to miss.
That sounds amazing. Yeah, I was intrigued by this feud just by watching the video clips, and then just hearing your promo work and knowing that like it comes from the heart. Did Nick also teach you promos during your training as well?
Nick did touch on promos a little bit. He is obviously a lot more of a mat-based wrestler, so he didn't delve into promos a whole lot. But the little that he did do, I really tried to pick up on, and I am a sucker for a good promo. So I could watch promos for hours, and I take any of that information. I take the good promos that I see, and that's what I take notes on. It's like I keep this in my head, like, okay, I like this about this promo. I like this about this promo. Because there is something about being able to go out and do a good promo and get the audience invested in what you're doing that really, I guess, shows my passion for what I do. And I hope when I do a promo that passion is, I guess, for lack of a better term, that passion is passed on to everyone else so they see that and that gets them invested.
Yeah, which is all great. I heard that like you do note taking because you watch promos and you basically write down what you like and stuff like that. How many hours a day are you watching wrestling and or promos?
It that always depends on the day. It always depends on my job and my kids, and they're running around. But I would say now, if we're talking about a week, I would say I am easily watching probably at least 10 hours of wrestling or promos or clips a week.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty great. Yeah, so I did get a question from somebody here that's listening to us. Would you mind if I open it up to questions from who's here?
I would love that. That would be great.
All right, give me a second. I'm inviting Joey Image to become a speaker. Joey, if you want to ask Amanda a question, go ahead. He should have got the thing. Joey?
I still see him as a listener.
Yeah, I know. I invited him to speak. Joey, take the invitation.
Okay, I was muted. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Go ahead,
This is
Joey.
like the second time I've done a space and I've been muted. Holy Christmas. First of all, this is really cool. This is awesome. I love doing stuff like this, so I like listening as well. Amanda, did you train with Nick when Jack Black was there? Do you know?
I did not.
Oh, do you know who Jack Black is? Not the Jack Black, but the worker.
I was like, not the
Jack actor.
Black.
Yeah, no, not School of Rock Jack Black.
Not that guy. He sounds familiar. I want to say I have heard of him, but I'm not trained with him.
He was Nick's I think co-trainer at OVW, I believe, for a while.
Okay. Yeah, he moved up here. Him and his wife actually moved up here. So I don't think he did.
Yeah, this was a while ago. I only met Nick once in 2013 when WrestleMania was here. I'm in New Jersey. So when WrestleMania was here at the MetLife Arena, now it used to be the Meadowlands. I met him that weekend. He was at some indie shows over the weekend. What was I say? I just think it's cool listening to you talk about your training. And is it Nick that trained you as a referee as well?
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you know about the U in the ring that not a lot of refs I hear know what that is.
Yes, the horseshoe.
Yes.
He called it the horseshoe.
Same thing. Yeah.
Same thing.
I know a lot of referees that unfortunately have never heard of that. And they know how to do it or what it is, but they don't know what it's called. So if you say the U or the horseshoe, a lot of them don't really know what I'm talking about. But I don't know. I've been around a long time, so I always
I would think
that's like an old school thing.
I would say, Amanda, if you want to touch on the horseshoe thing, if you can.
So basically what the horseshoe or the U is when you figure out where the hard cam is. So you basically know where they're recording the match. You are not going to be going in the area in front of that camera. You're going to be working the U or you're going to be working the horseshoe. So you're going to be working on basically a U shape around the ring. You're not going to get into that space in the front where the hard cam is. So it's basically all about where you are visually and making sure that you are not getting in the way of the wrestlers.
That makes a lot of sense. I just put Joey back down to listener because, great question, Joey. Don't worry. The next time that we do another interview on this, I'll be better at this. But I do appreciate Joey for helping me out with that, so I could think of where else to go with this. But it's really great to hear about your career and your journey. What are some goals that you have?
So one goal that I have is I want to be a referee at an all-female wrestling show. I just a few months ago did my very first women's match.
Awesome.
And I think female referees are getting to be a little bit more prevalent with WWE now and AEW. I think Aubrey Edwards really is the one that started that. But I know there's a couple of all women's wrestling companies here in the United States. one that is run by Maria Kanellis Bennett, who I met a couple of months ago. And I would absolutely love to referee for her promotion.
Yeah, which by the way, thanks for bringing up Maria's name. I totally forgot about that because I was researching and I saw the picture that you have with both her and Mike Bennett. And how did that go?
That was great. I did a seminar with them that they did before the show that night, and I definitely stepped outside of my comfort zone because Mike does his seminars a little bit different, whereas a lot of wrestlers will go in, show you moves. He doesn't do that.
Yeah.
He has you come in the ring and do 30-second promos. So I said, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to do a 30-second promo. So I did that. And Maria looked at me and she said, that was an awesome promo.
Cool. That's fantastic.
She critiqued me on just a couple little things. She's like, you move around a lot. She's like, try not to do that. But she said, otherwise, she said, I was in it. I was invested. I felt your passion for it. And that to me, you don't get much more of a confidence boost than that.
Yeah, which I'm going to back her up too, because like I said, watching the little clips of your promos on your fan page, yeah, I could definitely hear it in your voice and what you're going to say and how you say it. So yeah, I'm going to back her up on that she's right. You really do good promos where you get people invested and stuff. That's why I was like asking you about the whole Falcone feud that you guys have going on. So yeah, you really do great work.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So yeah, if you want, for anybody that's out there, because everyone always wants some type of either like motivation or something. You can say whatever you want at this point, because we are wrapping up. It's just one of those like, what kind of message would you give to like your younger self, type of thing?
So, I'll kind of I'll delve into a little bit of my personal life here. I actually was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis back in 2008. And my younger self was very, when that happened, it was, what's going to happen? I'm not going to have a normal life, that kind of thing. And younger me was very scared. I think seeing it, if anything, that was actually turned itself into a positive force in my life, because I know at any point I could lose what I have, whether it's my sight, whether it's my walking, whether it's, what have you, whether it's just being able to live. And I feel like that has pushed me to do things that I never thought that I would do, because I don't take for granted the fact that I can do these things in my life right now. Like, I pushed myself to get a master's degree. I pushed myself. I have 2 amazing boys who are going to be 8 years old this Saturday. I have gotten myself not only to have a life that's great, but I get to do this awesome wrestling stuff too. And I feel like even if you have something negative happen in your life, you can always somehow push it to be a positive. Somehow. And I think younger me was always so scared of thinking outside the box and doing something different, that I think I would tell her that it's going to be okay. Everything is going to be fine, because you find that positive spin on things to push you to do things that you never thought you would do.
I love it. I'm happy and glad that, you're still here with us and like nothing really, horrible happened. Like you have this strong mindset. And congratulations on getting a master's degree. And then also happy early birthday to your two sons. I hope they have like an amazing birthday this weekend. So I had a wonderful time interviewing you, Amanda. And I
I did
really
too.
and I really hope that you get, all the bookings that you deserve and that people reach out to you and stuff like that. So I wish you like all the best because it is hard. It's hard even to get bookings or even to like stand out. But I wish you all the best. Please put yourself over, plug in anything that you want. Let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So my Twitter is at Nerd Mom Rambles. I am Amanda Monroe on Facebook. I do not have Instagram. That does not mean I will never get Instagram for Amanda Monroe, but right now I do not have that. But yeah, please follow me on Twitter. Follow me, Amanda Monroe, on Facebook. Yeah, I would absolutely love to get myself out there, get more bookings for sure. And yeah, this was amazing. I absolutely love this.
Again, you're welcome. For everyone listening out there, this is the first ever me doing an interview with Amanda on Twitter Spaces, which is pretty cool. The power of just, talking over the phone, and like I'm over here in New York, she's over there in South Dakota, and just meeting is like really cool. But that brings us to the end of this exclusive podcast episode will be out on marieshadows.substack.com. So make sure that you sign up there to listen to the whole thing in its entirety. This recording will stay up on Twitter for like a couple days or maybe a couple hours because, again, you had to be in here in order to hear this exclusively on Twitter by using your phone. If you weren't here, then, you got to go over to marieshadows.substack.com. As always, make sure to follow me, make sure to follow Amanda, and yeah, we'll see you guys on the next one.